Hello, welcome to the replay. I'm Jason Butler and this is tonight's live, all about how to achieve financial freedom. And I should know because I've achieved it. I'm not saying it to be smug, but just to say to you that I've achieved what you're hopefully tuning in to find out about. For anybody, as you're just joining, we're talking all today about this concept of achieving financial freedom. Okay, and I'm going to come back and define what we mean by that because there's different forms of financial freedom. But before we do, really pleased that Daniel has joined us. If you haven't heard it already, listen to the podcast from last week. And I remember, Daniel, we did record that a while back, that podcast.
We did.
And so I'm very sorry it took a while for that to come out.
No, it's all right. Perfect time.
I enjoyed it all again when I listened back to it, just as much as I did when we did the interview. And I really enjoyed our chat. And it was almost like we'd known each other for years, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think there's something, because you honour that it's not just grafting, that there's the mindset aspect to it, these other aspects to it. And I, coming more from the other side, honour that there's a bit of groundwork that has to be done too. So I think we really met in the middle there, and it was reflected in the quality of what we put out in the interview, I think.
Yes, no, and thank you again for that, because it was really great to hang out. We really enjoyed it. Look, we've got a lot of people joining. It's going to be a good session. So tell everyone where you live, just so we know, because I'm in what was sunny Suffolk today. It's now gone freezing. It's going to start raining tomorrow. Where are you?
I live in Cabo, Mexico. I live right on the peninsula. I actually see the very tip of the peninsula from my balcony where I am right now.
Really? So, yeah. Really? Oh, good stuff. Good. Yeah, well, as I say, if you've just joined us and if you haven't heard it, listen to last week's podcast on the Real Money Stories podcast. You can get it on my website, jason-butler.com. I think Dan's got a link on his website to the video version. It's on YouTube as well, my YouTube channel. Fantastic podcast, really great, and that'll give you some more insights. But today we're going to talk all about financial freedom, achieving financial freedom. So let me just kick off, if I can, Dan. Let's just kick off and set the scene, because we hear a lot about financial freedom. And I think sometimes people get a bit confused by what we mean by this. And I think it means different things to different people. So I'm going to set out two different versions of financial freedom, okay? And then what we can do is I think we can just sort of unpack the components of achieving either of those states, because I want anyone who's listening today or on the replay, I want you to realize that we're here to help you find your truth, your way through, in the way that works for you. We aren't here telling you you need to live our life and the our way or the highway, okay? And I'm not trying to sell you a course or anything like that. At the end of the day, this is for free, okay? So you can have this and do what you want with it. This is just another perspective. Take our perspective and combine it with books you read, or other lives you see, or talks you hear, or TED Talks, or whatever it is, or mates down the road, if you can get back after COVID and speak to real people. So take real counsel from lots of people. So let me just define two versions of financial freedom, and then Dan may well chip in with his own if he disagrees and wants to add to that. And then what we'll do is we'll start picking it apart. And again, if you've got questions, chuck them in the question box. Don't put them in the normal question. Put them in the comments box, because otherwise Dan's face will disappear and I won't know who I'm talking to. So here we go. One version of financial freedom, okay, or financial independence, but we'll call it the word financial freedom, is that you have that your lifestyle spending, we call it your burn, your personal burn is one term, or your lifestyle cost, your absolute, what helps you not just function and exist, but actually enjoy life. And I don't mean having a private jet, but, having the holidays and the other things and the travel and the clothes that you don't really need to buy, but you really want to buy. Okay?
Definitely.
So the version is that you have enough passive income working for you and coming in, and cash flows coming in, and intellectual property, whatever it is, that you don't have to physically get up and do a day's work, okay, for that money to meet your lifestyle costs, okay? So that's the golden Nevada. You work because you want to. Paid work is optional, all right? It's optional. You do not need to physically work. That does not mean that you don't work, okay? So that's one definition. Now, before you all get upset and think, oh, God, this is not for me, this is for you, because I'm going to give you another definition, okay? And this definition that I'm going to share with you now is what enabled me to achieve that first state. And I have achieved that state. Admittedly, my lifestyle costs are very low. And this is the first trick. When your lifestyle costs are low, it's so much easier to achieve financial independence. If my lifestyle is costing me £50,000 a month, right? I need a hell of a lot of money, okay? If my lifestyle is only costing me 1,500 or 2,000 quid a month, it's a damn sight easier, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Now, let's take you over to another definition of financial freedom. And the one that I really like and that helped me achieve that ability where paid work is optional is that you basically, you feel in control of your money, okay? That you have got the ability to cope with curveballs and disappointments in life and stuff that happens, right? And that you have got the ability to be able to save and invest or build businesses or build other passive incomes, and that you enjoy the work that you do. You're not doing a job just because you have to do it. You're doing the job that you like doing, okay? And that you feel generally that you're enjoying life now, right, your present you, and you're being kind and good to your future you. So that's a definition of financial freedom. When, in other words, you feel like you've got a handle on stuff, you feel like you're making progress, and you feel like you're moving forward. But more importantly, you're not living to this future day when you're going to be some multi-millionaire happy person. You're happy today, but you feel that you're making progress in the right direction. So, Dan, over to you. There's two definitions. Give us your 10 pennies worth.
I'd say that the definition of financial freedom that I kind of roll with is an amalgamation of those two ideas that you brought together. I think the principle is, number one, your burn rate, or the life that you choose to live. The burn rate of that is met without you needing to exchange time for it.
Yeah.
That's for me. So again, my cost of living is a bit more than £2,000 a month, but again, my non-time related income streams cover for my cost of living. That means that, for example, the work that I do with creating impact and supporting people with their personal development, I can go into that zone, into that realm, without needing to sell stuff. So I can, for example, go on podcasts and not be like, well, everyone, now it's time for me to pitch you on my program, or I can do that without needing to, because I don't need to sell anything in order for my life needs to be met. When I go into a speaking engagement, I'm not going out there to pitch and sell stuff. I'm going out there to actually share a message. I have the freedom to be able to do that because my burn rate, my cost of living, doesn't require me to keep exchanging time for it. I've got real estate and other stuff that takes care of that. Again, I love the fact that you said it's about the choice to work. I'll tell you a quick story. This actually happened. A woman that spent a lot of money coaching with me personally, not even with the group, because she wanted to create financial freedom. She was in a government job in the US, worked for the federal government, absolutely hated her job, had these grand designs of having financial freedom. We did it in about 2.5 months. And she hated her life when she didn't have a job to go to. She was bored out of her brain. Then COVID kicked in and she was stuck at home by herself. She wished that she had a job. So one thing I just want to just put into this space for people listening is having financial freedom doesn't mean that you necessarily sit on the beach all day drinking pina coladas. That might not be you. Maybe you do want to go out and do something, but maybe what you want to do doesn't pay as much as you would need to cover for your cost of living. Or maybe what you want to do doesn't have any pay for it at all. Or maybe you want to do something that's not associated with pay. Maybe you want to spend more time with your family, do philanthropy. Financial freedom basically means whatever you want to do with your life in terms of what you do with your day, how you spend your money, where you live, happens without needing to exchange time for it.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important point. So if we think about financial freedom, but I'm really, I want to make this point to everyone, because I have interviewed, when I was a financial advisor, I was an advisor for 25 years until I stopped doing it after 25 years when I was 46. I interviewed nearly 1,400 people. We worked it out, okay? Wow. And so I saw a lot of people. And also I worked with people for 25 years. Some families, through multiple generations, people came and died and born and, babies became people who were at uni and all sorts of stuff. So I saw lots of stuff. I saw more in my lifetime than most people would normally through all the different stages of people's lives. And let's just be clear, being skint or poor or not having enough money, right, is a miserable place to be, okay? There's no question. But more and more and more isn't necessarily going to give you more and more happiness. And that's the point, the paradox, the happiness paradox. The happiness paradox says is it's not having what you want, it's wanting what you have.
Yeah.
And so when we think about financial freedom, what we're really saying is do our daily actions, first of all, help us be the best version of us.
100%.
Okay, and the best version of us in terms of, can we be generous to other people? Can we have empathy? Can we make sure that we help other people as well as help ourselves? And more importantly, can we help ourselves be the best version of ourselves? But does the economic decisions we make, whether that's through earning, spending, investing, and borrowing, does that get us nearer or further away from our peak human state? So just some thoughts on that, Dan.
Well, I think, again, so there's a thing I read in a book once. It's easy to be a philosopher on a full stomach.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It's easy to be a philosopher on a full stomach. Yeah. I think one thing that I've seen is people don't have a conscious relationship between this idea of the level of happiness, what they're adding to the world, and how much money they've got. You get people that, I mean, my mum's one of them. Money's the root of all evil and all of this stuff. Yeah. It's a disempowering relationship to money. Having an empowered relationship to money actually honors that, okay, it's not be all and end all, but it's a medium of choice. It means I can, for example, have the freedom mentally and emotionally to be able to say, this is what I want to do with my life. Even being in a space where we can explore the idea of, do I want the life that I'm living? What do I actually want? That's very difficult to do if you're under stress because of paying the bills or not being able to pay the bills on time, having to get the mortgage, or the kids want a holiday and you can't afford it. So having more money in the bank or having access to more abundance does facilitate having more space to actually explore these choices, which are actually what life is really about, I think.
Okay, so what we're really saying is, if we're clear what good looks like that you're feeling in control of your finances on a day-to-day basis, that you're not stressing about them, that you're not defining your self-worth by how much you've saved or not, that you're not comparing yourself to others, but that you've got enough to have what you want in life, the basics, that you're not sort of, not every penny's gone as it comes in the door. You've got the ability to build some savings and start doing some investing and have the things you want. And ultimately, you're moving towards a place where paid work is optional. You work because you want to, not because you have to. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's drill into some specifics, because I think it's all very well to talk about generalities. Let's get into specifics. Right. Yeah. One of the skills I think you need to learn, okay, and just for anyone who's just joined, I'm, by the way, my living costs aren't 2,000. I don't know where you got that number from, but they're more than that. But what I'm saying is they're not 20,000. You know,
I was messing around with you.
That's right. Yeah. I wish they were. Jesus, our food bill here is £1,000 a month. Okay, and that's just stuff from the supermarket. Right? We ain't buying caviar and champagne. Oh dear, referee. Anyway, so the one of the most important skills to learn, and one of the things to plan for, is to be able to plan for, to be resilient, to build up your resilience. Now, that's financial resilience, having an emergency fund. It's mental resilience, realizing that failure is part of learning. Okay,
100%.
And it's being very careful where you spend your time and your attention. Okay, if you are in a hole financially, watching more box sets on telly is merely going to just nullify the pain you feel. Okay, nothing wrong with binge watching stuff, but if you've got a fire going on in your house,
you don't want to be binge watching.
Don't sit and watch the latest thing of Game of Thrones or whatever's on, or Love Island Australia, whatever it is. Get out there and get the water and put the fire out.
Put the fire out, 100%.
So what's your thoughts there on about this building resilience?
Oh, 100%, because at the end of the day, like you said, when you were breaking down the two definitions of financial freedom, we're going to get curveballs. Life is not a predictable game. It's an unpredictable game. It's physically impossible to spin all of the plates that are happening in life and watch what's happening here and there. So having the capacity to be able to deal with those curveballs is just part and parcel of being a grown-up, number one. But when we're talking about as big an endeavor as breaking free from the matrix of the 9-to-5 rat race, now you're talking about independence. You're talking about not being dependent on somebody coming out and giving you a handout. You're going to be in dominion, in charge of what's going on in your life. You need to be able to face that. So that means making sure that you're, taking time out for self-care, right? Taking time out to stop and reflect. Taking time out to nourish yourself mentally and emotionally, so that you're actually being input with the resources to actually match the challenges that are going to pop up on a regular basis. Whether that's stressful people that you're going to have to deal with, whether that's having the resources in terms of the skills, your own, or being able to hire in the skills that's going to enable you to build out that portfolio of income streams, for example, or having those team members that are going to manage your income streams, so that you can actually go out there and have financial freedom.
Absolutely. So let's just think now about this idea of, I wrote a blog recently called The Truth About Renting versus Buying. And it's a very good concept that it's this idea that you have to buy your own home that you live in. For many people, it's right. Okay, it's the right thing for them to do. But for some people, if you're serious about building businesses, it may not be the right thing for you to do. And it might be right for you to continue to rent and use the money and the capital, or the monies that you would have used to buy a house to build your business. Okay. Now, I have bought and sold 2 businesses. Okay. And they made me very good money. Okay. Obviously, I've invested that money. But the point here is that sometimes investing in your idea or someone else's idea that you trust and you believe in, or building up your own sort of brand or idea might be the way to spend the money you would have otherwise put into a house. And so, in other words, not to get sucked into the narrative of you must always buy the house, otherwise, because rent is dead money. So just some thoughts on that, Dan.
I'm a firm believer as well. We're looking at the opportunity cost, which is the cost, what it costs us to not have money doing what it could be doing as an alternative. So let's say, for example, that you do have an opportunity to invest in a business that's going to make you a 20% net return over the course of the year. Now, you could invest, I don't know, your deposit or your purchase price. If you're in a country like mine, where I live now, where you're not going to get a mortgage, you have to pay outright, where you can take that cash, have it earning the 20%. That 20% pays for your cost of living, gives you space to go out and create other streams of income, and also pays for the roof over your head. There we go. That's just smart. For a lot of people, a mortgage is just a chain around their neck that's actually not adding to their overall plan. But I think one thing that we've spoken about already today that really comes in here is having a plan. All of these questions that we're exploring around whether to buy a house or to rent it really depend on what my plan is. If I don't have a clear plan, this question's moot. If I've got a clear plan, I can identify, is this the most optimal route for me or not?
Yeah, that's a good one. So the idea we'd already discussed. So if you've just joined, thank you for joining. Good to see you, Peter, as good as a regular. Oh, Henry Pryor's joined. Oh, Henry's an absolute rock star. He was on a live recently. Some real good people here know what we're talking about. But the point here is that defining what good looks like, okay, and the role of money in achieving it. That's the first thing we're saying. So financial freedom, if you've just joined, is really that stage of you've got enough money coming in to meet your basic living costs and the things you want to do. That paid work is optional. So if you choose to work, you work because you want to, not because you have to. But also, it's about feeling in control on a day-to-day basis, being able to cope with curveballs, being able to deal with opportunities as they come to you, being able to have choice, really. That's the point. But feeling like you're making progress, even if you're not on the finished article. So we talked about building resilience. And mental and physical and financial. We talked about sometimes it's not right to buy a house. It's better to rent because you can use the money, the time and all that into building businesses. So we talk about building businesses. Let's touch on that for a minute. Let's just assume that anyone listening is quite happy doing their main job, right? Yeah. And it's fulfilling, it meets their needs, and it puts food on the table. Yeah. What would be your thoughts and ideas and suggestions on building an additional income source or sources? How would you think the average person would go? Just a person with an average education, how would they go about that? What would be your sort of top tips?
First and foremost, the top tip I'd say is: are you actually built for business? Because there's, I don't remember what the statistics are, but don't most businesses fail in like 5 years or something like that?
It's something like restaurants. Most restaurants are out of business in 70% of restaurants are out of business within 3 or 4 years. I think
it's something crazy like that. And the fact is, not everybody's a business person. You know, there's been this whole barrage of stuff online over the past couple of years. Be your own business person. Start a business. You're an entrepreneur. You're probably not. Most people are not built for the pain and the struggle of being an entrepreneur and running a business. So something that you said earlier made a lot of sense. Sometimes it's best actually to partner up with people who do have those skills, who do have those abilities, who do have those resources, and team up with them. Be an investor, you know? So yeah, the first thing I would invite everyone, or the thing I would say before even having this conversation with yourself, with a loved one, is: are you even fit for business? Are you a business person? Are you ready to go and be an entrepreneur?
Good point. And it's worth saying there is no shame in working for someone. This idea that it's mucky to work for someone and you're not nobody if you're not an entrepreneur, that's total. I work for someone. I work half the week for a company in London, okay? I'm not quite sure what I do for them, but they pay me and I work for them apparently. And I have to do the diversity training and all the awareness stuff and all these courses online, which is all great fun. But the point is, I work for someone because it suits me, because I like doing the work, because of the impact I have on people, because I'm doing live events every week to thousands of people, okay, that I wouldn't normally get to see on top of my normal work. I only work part-time, but the point is I'm an employee. I'm employed by them. There's certain rules that come with that. There's certain restrictions, but on balance. So the idea that you work for someone is somehow a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Either it suits you for some of your time, all of your time, or for this time in your life, it's the right thing to do. And what I would also say is, before you start spending loads of money trying to, investing in yourself to build a business around something, go and find someone who's already doing it, and possibly try and either work for them or work for them for free for a bit. I don't mean like internships that are never finishing and all you're doing is working for free, but just try and find out a bit more of it. I knew a friend who wanted to do, for instance, nursing, and she did some, she basically did some orientation work and realized actually she didn't like the sight of blood and didn't like the needles. So that was going to be a bit difficult, even though she loved the rest of the job. That was really a bit of a difficulty. Unless she had some sort of training or phobia problem coping mechanism, she was never going to go into nursing or medicine. Okay, so it's the same with other things. So give us some examples then of people, how they can augment their income if they don't, if they are not cut out to be a business person.
Well, I will come to that. Just another point I just want to make as well, not to keep creating these tangents, but an idea that I want to just put in people's head is that even if you have a business, you still work for someone because you work for your clients. You're always working for someone. That's just choosing who you work for and the terms on which you work for them.
Yes, absolutely.
I work for the clients for me. If a company hires me to come in and work for them and at the moment do some virtual training, I work for them. It's just that the terms of that are different and my remuneration is higher than say a salary or like an hourly rate. So I just want to put that in front of you. You're always working for someone. It's just a matter of choosing who you are and the terms on which you're working for them.
Perhaps I should clarify. What I meant, Dan, was sometimes people think it's mucky to be an employee.
I understand, but I was making that point. Even if you run a business, you're still working for someone. It's just under different terms. But
absolutely.
But in terms of like what we can do when we've got a job. Let's look at number one. I love to work something called archetypes. It's a big part of the work that I do, that I teach people to do. That's understanding something I call your money DNA. And that's understanding how you are constructed in terms of your relationship to the holding and the creation of wealth. Not everybody's going to be suited, for example, to have a side hustle selling stuff online, because it's just going to be out of whack for you. Not everybody's going to be suited doing some moonlighting consulting along the side. Not everybody's going to be suited even to have a real estate portfolio because they just don't understand it. Not everybody's going to be suited to doing like some spread betting or something on the side. Everybody's going to have something that's more suited to them. So get to know yourself, the stuff that you like to do, the stuff that you've got a natural aptitude for, which is where I would say to go first. Where do you have a natural aptitude? Where do you enjoy spending time? Because if you've just gone, you've just been commuting for an hour and a half after working 8 hours a day, you've got screaming kids in the house, your wife nagging you, or your husband complaining that you're back late and he wants pudding for dinner or whatever, you're not going to want to go and do something that you don't want to do. Your heart's not going to be in it. You're not going to be able to show up.
You've got no energy, have you?
You're going to have no energy. But when you're excited about it, when it lights you up, and when you've got a natural aptitude for it, having that extra thing that you're going to do and pulling out the reserves from the tank is going to be easier. So I would say start with those things and look at something that doesn't require that much time, that much of a lead time to getting started, so that you can actually start tasting it, seeing if it works for you. And something also you could do with the least financial, everything's going to be some risk, but what's something you can maybe just spend a few pounds or euros or dollars here and there, just sort of playing with and see if it works for you, and then scaling it. That's
I think often that's a very good point. I want to segue to that. And this idea that you've got to go big or go home, or that everyone else is doing more than you. This will keep you poor. Comparing yourself to other people is a recipe for disaster. Okay,
100%.
And we know we're all sick to the back teeth with envy the fact that Dan is in sunny Mexico, just a stone's throw from the beach. But put that to one side, the envy that we feel, okay, because we're all freezing here if you're in the UK, certainly. Anyway, but put that to one side. We love him, and I like the beard, by the way, since the last time I spoke to you. So nice addition. It's good.
Thank you.
You talk about personal growth, so there we are. So. But the point is taking really small steps, really small. I mean, really tiny. The smaller you can make the steps to moving forward with something, even if it's like, so if you want to write a book that you're hopefully going to make royalties on, commit to writing so many words every day, right?
Yeah.
Nothing huge, but just or a blog once a week or whatever. You know, I've been writing blogs every week for bloody ages. Okay, I've written articles for the FT for 5 years. I've written books, but the point is, I have the habit of writing. I have the habit of thinking. I have the habit of researching, of thinking, of writing, of pushing it out. So gradually develop the really smallest possible step you can towards something that you, as Dan was saying, you have an innate talent for, you have an interest in, that doesn't feel like work, that kind of you get excited about. And it's not about your passion as such. I put that to one side. Talent, I think talent and hard work will often be better for you. But the passion is a bit over. It's great if you can, but don't beat yourself up if you can't. There's lots of things I'm not passionate about. I'm pretty good at, and I do enjoy doing them, but I wouldn't say I'm passionate about them.
I'd say passion runs second fiddle, I think.
Yeah. So just that concept to start really small in that area and see if you can develop the habits, behaviors, and routines that are necessary to become good at something to deliver enough value that then people will pay.
100%.
So, okay, so let's talk about opportunity. So let's assume that I'm going to take it as read for the purposes of this, that you've got to learn how to control your spending. Okay,
100%.
It does not matter how much that you earn if you cannot control your money. In other words, think of your money like a naughty child. Okay. It either is running around the shop picking up everything and it says, I want this, I want this, I want this, I need this, and this, and then you just give in, okay? And then you wonder that you've bought £200 worth of stuff you didn't need. Or your money is like a child, small child, that will have the occasional outburst, and it will be difficult sometimes, and it will be moody, and it will sometimes keep nagging you to death, but generally speaking, it knows how to conduct itself around the supermarket, and occasionally you might give it a little treat. Okay, so that's how we're going to treat our money. We have to tell our money where we want it to go before we earn it. If we wait till it comes in the door, the danger is it's like a hot potato for many people, and it burns a hole in our thing. Or we go and do stuff, we can make commitments to spending or other things, and we haven't thought that one through in advance. So in other words, we haven't got that plan that Dan was talking about. So let's assume that you have got control of spending. Let's now talk about assessing how you decide where to spend the three things that are important: your time, your money, and your talents. So do you want to just talk about that, Dan, and how people would say yes and no to things? Because when you've got a little bit of money, the world wants to be your friend.
Yeah, I just want to dovetail what you were saying about, assuming something's red. I just want to add something to that chapter that everybody's read, wink, wink. It's that more money doesn't equate freedom. The difference between freedom and non-freedom, being a slave to your money, is that modicum of control that you have over it. Because there are people making £1 million a year that they'll be screwed if they didn't have that income tomorrow, because they are a slave to that income coming in. They're still a wage slave.
They're spending all of it and more. Yeah,
exactly. So it's not about having more money. It's like you said, it's having more dominion over where that money is being directed, how much of it you're setting aside, and how it's growing for you. So assuming that's all the case, 100%, what I would say is this. Number one, looking at the Parato Principle. I'm sure you're familiar with the Parato Principle. For the listeners that aren't, the Parato Principle, I can't remember what it was, 1800 something or 1300 something, a long time ago, Italian guy called something Parato, basically comes up with this mathematical formula that essentially 80% of our results comes from 20% of where we're spending our time, right? And it kind of veers off of this. 80% of the wealth is created by 20% of the people. It might be 70-30, it might be 85-15, but roughly about that. So if you take stock of what you're doing with your time, you'll actually find that most of the results you're actually getting are coming from a small number of things you're doing. If you look at your business, 80% of your revenue is probably going to come from a small pocket. This is where niching comes in, understanding what that pocket of people is. Or there's a particular cash generating or income generating activity or profit making activity that's going to be generating the bulk of your results. Focusing on that. But that demands that we actually have an audit. We know where we are, we know what we're doing, and we know where it's going. So look at your time spent. In terms of the joy and the productivity that you're getting out of your time, what is it? Is it spent watching the box sets? Probably not. It's probably spent doing a bit of research, right? So understanding what those are. Then you can actually see, well, there's some things I need to do. However, it's not the most productive use of my time. So we'll look at where you can exchange value with other people so that their time is exchanged for your money, because your time is actually better spent and more profitable spent somewhere else. A basic example is admin. You know, most of my admin now, my assistant Amy just takes care of. Even little things like booking appointments in my diary, Amy takes care of it. Every one of those 5 to 10 minutes that's spent with her doing that is actually time for me to ever spend creating new ideas, creating content, doing high-level work in my business. So I'm getting the most from it. But it demands a level of conscious relationship with it to be able to identify and know where am I getting the most results and where am I spending time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this concept, can I just touch, so if you've just joined or recently joined, we're talking all about achieving financial independence, and we've financial freedom. When we've defined it in two ways, one is you have enough income that you don't rely on having to work to get to meet your lifestyle costs. That's one definition. The other one is just being in control, feeling like you're on top of it, that it's not giving you loads of grief, that you're moving forward and that you've got money you can build for savings and you can cope with curveballs. But I want to talk about the FIRE movement. Now, if any of you are listening, give us a thumbs up if you've heard of the FIRE movement, F-I-R-E, Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's what I kind of, as you know, I do a lot of live events, and before COVID, I used to do a lot of keynotes all around the country. And the more savvy people would sort of more interested in people who are more interested in money would say to me about the FIRE movement. And there were two types of people. Those that loved it, and it was like a sort of new church, you know, the church according to FIRE. And there was those who sort of felt like actually it was like some Mad Mooney set. That basically hated it, right? And they felt these were a load of smug people who were sort of looking down on them, making them feel silly. Now, I'm probably sitting somewhere in between. I mean, as I told you, I don't have massive expenses, but I don't have to work for money if I don't want to. And I'm not saying it to be smug. I'm just saying it because I was a train wreck in my 20s and I managed to turn it around. And in my early 50s, I've got there. But the point of the FIRE movement is that is just one extreme movement. They say live like a sort of like a monk on Ryvitas and cheese for 15 years, and then you never have to work, and just squirrel every penny away, and then you never have to work again. Okay, and that might be right for some people, but I would say this to you: anything which is extreme, okay, will always be very polarizing, and it will either really enthuse you, or it will polarize, or rather, it will disenfranchise you. It'll make you feel disempowered. So I think that the FIRE movement is financial independence, retire early. What they're really trying to do is they're an extreme version of saying really what we've been saying. Make sure you decide where your money's going. Okay, invest the money, don't spend it all. Keep your costs low, because low cost means one, you need less money coming in, and secondly, you've got more to save. And fourthly, just be more mindful. And we were talking, weren't we? Be more intentional about, you know, what work do you like doing, and not having to work is not the same as not working. So I think the FIRE movement, don't get disenfranchised by their extreme thing. I was financially independent 33 and a half or something, you know, and never had a life for 15 years before. You know, there's always a story behind those people, and some of them are well-intentioned, but don't let those be your guiding point. So we got here, I used to love the FIRE movement, what's this one? But then I realized I wanted freedom to live my own life, be my own boss, rather than to retire early. I was running away from problems through FIRE. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Peter. That's Peter Dalton, a very regular thing. So what Peter's really saying was he used to love the idea, but what he really was saying is he wanted to do work on his own terms, not to retire. And I would say to you, I'm 51, right? I don't ever want to stop working. I like having an impact. Now, let's just talk about this concept of the vibration of wealth and this thing about attraction, because you talk about this a lot, Dan, and I know that you've got some very, very evocative and very effective ways that you describe this. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to come to the FIRE bit just for a second, because I think one of the things that people are getting lost in is this idea that I'm not allowed to live a nice quality of life in order to get what I want. Because the thing is that for a lot of people, and I actually first heard this, I think it was Tony Robbins I first heard this idea from. I kind of had it, but it really locked in when it said it's that the quality of life that you want to live can actually be had sometimes just by moving your geographical location. I wouldn't be financially free at the quality of life that I live here if it was, for example, a couple of thousands north in Southern California. To have the same
San Diego,
or San Diego, for example, it would cost me 4 times as much to have the house. My food would cost me 3 times as much. I wouldn't be able to have the level of support that we have in the home. You know, my stepdaughter goes to private school, she does gymnastics and all that. It would cost me a crap ton more. I'd still be able to afford it, but I'd have to keep working in order to do it. Just by me moving somewhere actually it's safe, I don't even have to lock the door of my house most of the time, right? Got lovely weather and all that good stuff. I get to have a high quality of life just by moving my geographical location. You can swap some things out, or you can do some things to a lesser degree. Maybe you don't need to necessarily have the latest BMW 4x4, but you can have a really solid, reliable car that you've got a lease on, and you can still have that quality of life. So I just want to say, in terms of that FIRE movement, the whole, what do they call it? Not stoic Rivita and peanut butter. Frugality. The frugal. It's not necessary in order for you to create the extra space to tuck stuff away, and you can all just be more efficient with what you do tuck away. So just wanted to pop that. But in terms of vibration, or did you want to say something on that?
No, go on, carry on.
No, yeah. In terms of the vibration, I mean, it's one of those words that I think really has got a big hype so that people can sell more courses on Instagram and say, you know, come and give me $2,000. I'm going to detune your frequency to the other dimension of whatever bollocks they're talking about now, which is poppycock anyway. Really, all that we're talking about is, if you get a curly, I think it's curly in photography, I could take a photo of you, you could take a photo of me, you'd see where my energy centers are, you'd see what my energy is outside of my body, and based on my emotional state, that would all change. All right? Vibration is, the first point of vibration is emotional contact, because the first point that I have a physical experience of whatever my quote unquote vibration is how I feel. So rather than going and buying another thing from someone who got their shaman certificate in Northern California about vibration or whatever, or thinking that you have to go and do a plant ceremony to understand this vibration and retune your chakras, all it is about having an emotional state that's able to hold that which you're moving towards. That's it. Everything else is sprinkles, and it's sexy and it's great for Instagram with girls that have got bikinis on or whatever. But ultimately, all we're talking about is, do I have the capacity emotionally to hold what I want to step into? Because if I have a vibration of lack, what I'm actually saying is my emotional state is not in alignment with me actually having more abundance or me having financial freedom. Me going out on this endeavor to go and create financial freedom, whilst I've got lack vibration, whilst I've got fear, whilst I've got a thing of money's the root of all evil, and that's my emotional state, it's going to repel it emotionally, which will be felt in the opportunities that come my way, because we are magnetic beings, which will also be felt in my thought processes, because our emotional state does impact our thinking, which will then will affect my habits and behavior. So ultimately, what we're talking about in vibration is, how do I feel, and do the emotions that I feel cognitively connect to the outcome that I want? Because if it doesn't, I'm not going to get it.
Peter Walton's asked for thoughts on The Millionaire Next Door. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Dan, but The Millionaire Next Door was a book written about
I think
15
I do know that
years
book.
ago from
I think I
memory.
do know that book.
Yeah, and they did a study of lots of millionaires, or, you know, it was basically Middle America. And they looked at the characteristics of these. Now, what, in essence, they actually sort of, wasn't really clear what was cause and effect. Okay, so in other words, we don't know if the reason for the people's wealth was because of the way they were living, or the way they were living was because of their wealth. But there was some clues, and basically the tenet of for anyone who's not aware of the book, was that just living the average multimillionaire in America lives a very low-key lifestyle. Doesn't have a flash car, doesn't have loads of debt, doesn't have, you know, loads of millions of holidays. So in other words, what they were trying to say was that and it was the opposite of really the American dream of consumption showed that you were getting ahead. And you get this, I've got this with some friends of mine from, in fact, I was talking to the E-Man, Emmanuel Escuto, brilliant British guy who's now on TV and that. And he was saying in the Nigerian communities, showing conspicuous consumption was seen as wealth, okay? And sadly, then it percolates down as 2 or 3 generations later in the city areas to that if you've got gear and you're showing you've got the trainers or you've got the car, or that somehow that's wealth. And really what The Millionaire Next Door was really just illustrating was that consumption, okay, doesn't equal being wealthy. Wealthy is about when you can put your hands on money, when you have the choice to do stuff, if you choose to. Now, I think what the problem in that book is that I'm not too convinced that the sampling was properly weighted. I don't think it was scientifically looked at carefully. So whilst we can say, and I know because I've interviewed nearly 1,400 families in the 25 years I was in a device business, okay? We know there are certain characteristics that are more likely to help you build wealth, okay? But that's not misunderestimate the amount of luck that some people have. We like to blame everything, all of our downside on bad luck, and all of our upside on our hard skill and our hard efforts. And that may be the case many times, but there's quite a lot of situations where some people were successful despite themselves. I mean, I met people that were so incredibly thick over the years, you wondered how they even tied their shoelace, let alone got 2 or 3 million pounds of share options in a quoted company and a fully funded pension. Okay, now, I'm not showing envy, I'm just saying that there are people who get luck. So we can't rely on luck. If we're here talking about achieving financial freedom, what we're really saying here is about being mindful and making conscious decisions. So The Millionaire Next Door, it's an interesting book, and I've read everything you can imagine. So thank you for raising it, Peter. Very good one. If you've got questions, chuck them in the box. Loads of people joining. Thank you for that. So let's now talk about, I've found in my experience, and it's happened to me personally, that we might be fixated on improving our financial position, or even just moving forward to a stage when paid work is optional. We've got financial freedom. But in my research that I did with Sudden Money, people who come into Sudden Money, they win the premium bonds or the lottery, or they have a big payout at work, or there's a criminal injury bill, or something happens that they weren't, or a big inheritance that they didn't know from Aunt Aggie from millions of miles away. When money comes into them, it as you say, it almost affects their vibration because they have not done the preparation necessary. In other words, I say to people, you haven't said, if I had £1 million tomorrow, or $1 million, or a million pesetas, or whatever it is, how would I change my life? What specifically would I do? It's what I call a lifeboat drill for sudden money. Because if you can do it when there's sudden money, align your daily actions with getting you nearer to that. So do you want to give some thoughts on that, Dan?
Well, definitely. Well, you've got to look at the habits and behavior, because, I mean, everything's cause and effect, right? So the effect of my life is going to be based on the...
Hello, Dan?
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you. Carry on, yeah.
Yeah, am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you freezing a bit? Yeah, I can hear you, Dan. Dan, I think... Sorry, technical problems, everyone. Sorry about this. What happens when you speak to someone in Mexico? They probably put a trawler's probably gone through the internet cable. So while we're waiting for Dan to come, Dan's going to join us again. I think he's just dropped off. While we're Tennis for Teddington, good to see. Oh, he's back. Oh, is he back? Well, while we're waiting for him to join us, Tennis for Teddington asked this interesting question. And he's basically said, what are some of the worst decisions you've seen that stop people from getting ahead? Whole host of things. So I'll just run through a few. Buying cars on leases. Okay. I know that people don't agree with this. I say buy the car that you can afford, because then you've got no monthly payments. When you've got no monthly payments, you've got money. You can choose to take a lower paid job. You can choose to start that business. You can choose to save money for stuff. You do not need to have a £400 or £500 a month car payment. You know, that's just until you get to a situation where you've got money, you know, you've built some money, then by all means buy the swanky cars, the brand new Tesla, whatever you want, get it. Another thing I've seen people seduced by is they forget all the basics of investing in simple things like global index funds in favor of this new, shiny, great, big, wonderful, I'm going to get really rich over here, Bitcoin or whatever. Now, don't get me talking about crypto. If you pursue what you think is going to get you somewhere quicker, okay, it's generally going to get a very high chance of making you poor. So you've got to get the basics right. You've got to start investing, saving and investing and get the right habits before you can start speculating. And there's nothing wrong with speculating if you've got the money and you've got the foundations. And speculating also includes starting your own business or investing in a friend's business. Other issues I've seen is family lending family or friends money and not documenting it. Okay, that's caused nothing but grief. It's a terrible thing I've seen. Nothing wrong with lending family money, but you have to assume that you're never going to get it back. and you must put it in writing so there's never any misunderstanding. I've seen that cause all sorts of problems. I've seen also people keep plowing money into a business that's failing. Okay, because what they do is they start a business, or it could even be a side business, but it could be a main business, and whether they do it on their own or they do it with other people, they basically hang on, let's see if we've got Dan joining us. Is he just check? Oh, here. Go live. Dan's back in. Sorry about that. Dan's back in. Hopefully he's with us. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, basically people keep backing a failing business. Sorry, Dan, I'm just finishing up something while I was waiting for you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So they keep putting money into a failing business, either it's their own business or a business they're doing with someone else or a family business, and they don't cut out the waste, because a business that's not working, it gets to a point when basically you just have to pull the plug. And you're not a failure because your business failed or it didn't work. You're a failure if you keep shoveling good money after bad into something which is just not working. Okay. So I'm just sharing with everyone the issues of where I've seen people make silly mistakes with money. And I've made mistakes. Oh God, I've made so many mistakes. It's unbelievable. But the beauty is I learn from them. I never make the same mistake again. So learn from your mistakes. So Dan, what you were saying before you so rudely got interrupted by...
Yeah, sorry, no, my phone overheated on the balcony. It didn't have shades. I've just come up to the roof now because I've got a shade over.
Oh, so... you didn't overheat then?
No, not me. No, I was saying everything's cause and effect. And like you were just describing, these are behaviours which are causation that are going to lead to the effect of actually having a stable financial situation. Yep. And what I've seen time and time again is people lose sight of the fact that the habits and behaviours that you have when you have X amount, whether it's you were on, benefits, or you just had a lower paying job, or even you had a high paying job, and you get kicked into a new situation, in order for you to have the effect of maintaining that new situation, then your causation needs to match it. And those are those habits and behaviors. So it's like you said, seeking counsel, right? Being around people who operate at that level. I mean, I had someone that I knew who won the lottery. And she called me when she won the lottery, because I used to do some stuff around consulting, like footballers and stuff that were going into retirement. So she knew I kind of would have some tips and tricks for her. And I said to her, do not tell anybody, do not tell a soul that you've won the lottery. Do not tell anyone. I said, I'm going to come and see you tomorrow. We'll get you hooked up with a financial advisor. We'll call the bank and get you some private banking. We'll get you taken care of. We'll work out your budget so that we can work out some income for you. But don't tell anyone. Of course, what did she do? Tell everybody I won the lottery. We worked out that for her to live a really nice life, because £1 million won't last forever, in order to live a really nice life, she was looking at, I think it was £8,000 a month it was going to cost her for her and her son. We worked out, we connected her with some really good financial advisors. She was going to have the £8,000. I think it was going to be about £10,000 a month that she was going to have. What does she do? Does $30,000-$40,000 trips to Ibiza, gets herself a new boyfriend, decides that she's going to give him $2,000 a month on top of everything else, going shopping, this and that.
2 years later, gone.
Not even 2 years. But thankfully, I put her into a couple of people that she got a couple of longer term investments that locked her money up. So I think this year or next year she gets a few $100,000 out. But she ended up squandering all of the money because she was operating and she was operating from what she knew. And that's what we do. And that's why it's so important to get the right advisors, to get the right counsel, so that you can get leadership and mentorship to actually operate, so that you're actually going out with the causation that's going to lead to the effect of you maintaining that level.
That's right. So the point there, everyone, is that ask yourself the question, do this after this live, and do it over the next 2 or 3 days. Just say, what would I do differently with my life if I had £1 million, euros or dollars, whatever suits you? Okay. Not that you're living in some fantasy land or you're obsessed by it or it defines you. But the reason, if you go through that, because I do this all the time, I use £10 million, right? So I say, what would I do if I had £10 million come in tomorrow? Okay. So in my mind, a third of it is for philanthropy, and not just where I give it and never see it. I mean, a foundation that keeps chucking out stuff for people, and I can get one of my daughters to manage that for me. A third of it is for startup businesses and scale-up businesses of people that I want to back and that I like and I enjoy, and in areas that I understand. And a third of it is for basically irreverent fun and generosity. So not just me, because I don't really want to consume stuff, but I was thinking to myself, will I go and buy myself an Austin Healey 3000? I don't really need it, but I'd only buy it, okay, if I could buy it with an Aston Martin DB5 and probably a Merc SL and put them all in the same same little, and I'd like it in a cart lodge, okay, that's made of English oak, okay, but reclaimed English oak, and I'd like it to look like this, okay, and I want it next to a wood. So I start to think, so that's just an example of mixing materialism with lifestyle, because for me it's about like, what car would I want to drive today, okay, what's my mood. Now look, I don't need that, but you're asking, it's a third of money, which I'm not going to spend it all, but I might be able to justify if I'm doing the philanthropy and I'm backing startup businesses, that I might just give myself the permission. The chances are I probably wouldn't. But here's the point. What I want you to do is, all of you, ask yourself that question. Now, for you, it might be, I'm going to pay off my mortgage. I'm going to pay off my mum and dad's mortgage. I'm going to pump up my pension. I'm going to start that new business, or I'm just going to have a year off. But by asking yourself the question, what you then start to do in your mind is you start to think, okay, it's not the answer to all my problems. It's not going to necessarily make me massively happier. But what's to stop me moving closer to having that money at some stage by my daily actions? But not putting off, as you said, living like a monk on Rivitas. Still enjoying life now, right?
Exactly.
But moving towards that. So almost do a wealth lifeboat drill.
And the thing I think that really makes sense to drive home here is, we're not saying there's anything wrong with enjoying nice things. It's just not enjoying nice things at the expense of your future stability, chasing after people. Like, if you want to drive, like, for example, I had it on my mind that I wanted to get a Lamborghini. Not much point here. Now, do I need a Lamborghini? No. Do I? Is it
Does
something?
Anyone need a Lamborghini?
No, but if you fancy a Lamborghini and you've put the work in and you've earned yourself the right to go and get a Lamborghini without it creating stress for yourself, without it creating lack, without overextending yourself, if it's within your means, go and do it, but create the means that gives you the choice of what you want to do. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
And that point about money is currency, right? Money needs to move around.
Yes.
I would say to you, if you are holding, and this is a phenomenon you have people holding far too much money in cash, okay? And even if they don't need the return, money needs to be used. If you don't need it, give it to a charity, or give it to a family or friend who can have a better quality of life, or lend it to them on interest-free terms, or take a course or do something to get you out of your comfort zone. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying that large amounts of cash sitting around is just as bad as large amounts of debt sitting around, because it doesn't produce any function. I mean,
it actually loses value. It actually loses value because of inflation if it's just sitting around.
Yeah, it's good to build up cash and to be able to buy assets from people who are perhaps desperate and motivated sellers. There's nothing wrong with having strategic cash building up for a period. I'm just saying that just thinking, oh, I had £1 million in the bank, I wouldn't need to worry. Well, no, that's not how it works. So look, Dan, we've taken a lot of your time. As we come to an end, is there anything else you want to share with everyone? Because you've been very gracious of your time. I've loved being with you. No. This has been fun. Always love to hang out. This has been cool. Really enjoyed this, actually. But I mean, I think just have a plan. Have a conscious relationship to your money. How much you're making. How much it would cost you to live the life that you want to live. How much it costs you to live the life you live now. So many people don't even know where the money's going on a month-to-month basis. It kind of comes in and it disappears. If you want to start creating space, for example, to start putting some money aside and start building up a plan for yourself, you need to have a conscious relationship with where you're at now. Let go of the idea that it has to be super duper sexy. Super duper sexy can actually end up costing you less, actually. Lose the idea of keeping up with the Joneses, because that's just going to get you broke. We were talking about the consumerism before I got kicked off because my phone overheated. That's an idea that was created by those with money who want more money from those who don't actually have money, right? It's like, look, don't get caught up in these ideas that were just meant to basically leech you, Really focus on what do you want to create, and then go out and create expansion that's going to lead to being able to do that. Brilliant. And if you want to hear more of Dan and I speaking, last week's Real Money Stories podcast, well worth a listen. The video version's on my YouTube website as well, and he didn't have a beard then. He's in disguise. I just want to leave you all with just two thoughts here, all right? And it may sound counterintuitive about achieving financial freedom. Is, first of all, practice gratitude. Practice gratitude for what you have, and where you are now in life and the progress you've already made. Okay, you can't do anything about the mistakes other than learn from them. And the second thing is realize that at the end of the day, the amount of money you accumulate won't really matter a great deal. I mean, it's helpful to accumulate money and store it so that you can use it. What matters is what you do with that money through your life, both in terms of how you live your life now and how generous you are. And when you get ahead with money, okay, you can be really generous with your time, with your money, but also with your empathy. And if you can keep thinking about other people, and I'm not trying to sort of lecture here, I'm just saying, the more you can keep, always remember, there's always someone worse than you. There's always someone who needs a bit of time. If you can spend a bit of time with someone who needs you, then you are the richest person in the world. And if you've got your own financial affairs sorted, that's how it enables me to do all the stuff I do, okay? You know, because I've got myself sorted so that I'm now got a position where I can choose to do what I want, and Dan can as well. Dan, been great to talk to you, mate. I'll let you go.
Too. Thanks so much, buddy. This has been fun.
I hope the sun breaks through later there in sunny Mexico.
It's actually come through a little bit. Actually, it's only 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it may yet warm up.
Yeah, well, you've only just started. So just tell everyone your website if they don't know who you are, because you've got a website. You're on Instagram, obviously.
dreamwithdan.com.
Yeah, well worth dreamwithdan.com. Well, anyway, great to talk to you, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. Be on YouTube, and I'll see you again soon, mate. Thanks for your time.